Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to those of you around the world. Welcome to the daily Trade Between Crypto update, where we give you everything you need to know for the next 24 hours and hopefully the next few days. Today is Thursday, October 20th, and we are currently coming off of a what was the start of a beautiful morning. Quickly reversed around 11 p.m. or 11 a.m. Eastern, and the market is still continually assessing exactly where it wants to move off of this 19K range for Bitcoin. And for equities, we are still stuck in the same range, reaching the same lows that we met throughout Wednesday and very late today, because that is very early in the morning on Thursday. So sentiment right now, we've still got bearish Bitcoin, slightly bullish ETH. ETH sentiment has come down. Of course, we've seen a lot of conversation around deflationary metrics around Ethereum, which is why I think that sentiment is a little bit more positive than not. We're definitely seeing some variance, but mostly bearish across the board, other than a few outstanding assets. Doge somehow still up over the past 24 hours. Not too many others are up over the past 24 hours after the boost last night. Many have come back down. As you can see, 1 hour changes are anywhere from 0.5% to a full percent for many assets. Of course, a few outliers such as Tron, Doge, and some other, definitely shit coins as well. So where are we currently sitting? For Bitcoin, it's very flatline sentiment, not entirely positive. We want to see sentiment pop above 50, else this is definitely signaling bearish continuation. And then for Ethereum, it is very much coming off of the high yesterday. If that does seep down into under 50, that may signal bearish continuation as well. The DXY, drew this and sent it to the Trade the Chain community. Not very sexy, but this is currently what we're facing for the dollar index. As you can see, massive 4-hour candle that started about 2 hours ago. We will probably continue to crab around here until it either breaks higher or breaks lower. Typically, this formation will continue in the direction that it started. This is pretty much a symmetrical triangle. Typically, this tends to break higher, considering all of the action we've seen has been, in a bullish fashion. So I don't think anyone is really entirely fading the DXY here. You really wanted to see a break here yesterday. You wanted to see a break here this morning. Of course, it can still break. We do have the 200 moving average to act as supports around 111.5, but DXY looks very strong. And of course, a strong dollar, as we've said many times before, indicates weaker risk assets. And of course, like I said yesterday, those high numbers, really wanted to get attacked today. We had a very strong drop in price action. Typically, you would want to try and long this support balance just based on how equities have been acting. But of course, we need to see how we survive at this 3667 level, more specifically 3670. We could definitely come off, but we could also consolidate here and start to slip down. We've got the 200-day moving average and the hourly at 3650 to act as some sort of supports. We also have a large amount of liquidity in this area here. So if we do end up bouncing down, I would expect to see some sort of reversal action, or at least an attempt at a reversal around the 3600 level. So basically, if equities can survive 3670, they may continue to attack 3630 and or higher again. If they cannot survive 3670, the first line of defense would be 3650. If 3650 fails, then we are at 3600. Based on current indicators, we could potentially get some bullish divergence, meaning price slips under here, tags at 3650, and RSI is still, above 36. That would make, some bullish divergence. as we would we would kind of be making that formation, and we could potentially head higher. So I don't think, money is not going to come easy. I don't think you're just going to get straight up giga shorts, and you're obviously not going to get giga long. So the best way is to try and play these range trades, but obviously this could be a very confusing trade, and it may be better to wait to see how the end of the day fares, considering we got our volatility for the day. We moved higher at open. We fell off shortly after the open, or we moved higher towards the open. We fell off shortly after the open. Now we're back to more or less where we started, where, we ended right around here yesterday. So, we are beneath yesterday's highs, and we are now at support. So only a few ways to play it. You either long support, you short weakness, and you look for any variance that may end up doing this or doing that. So markets are not giving anyone any easy trades right now. I know a lot of people are probably expecting the high end of this range, which is probably why I got cut so early. Market makers are continuing to have their fun. So looking at this in comparison to Bitcoin, I'll zoom out on the hourly. Unfortunately, Bitcoin seems to be making some sort of descending triangle. Typically, these will end up breaking lower. So, you could expect, and let me grab my little brush tool here, not highlighter. So, typically for something like this, you would expect, action like this. Typically, descending triangles will break lower, typically signals continuation of previous price action. We could certainly tag the top and end up moving higher and then deviating lower again. I think this is a very tough read. It's, of course, going to depend on where equities end up heading in the short term. So if you think that equities are going to catapult back to maybe 37.30 and then, continue to range around here, then it would make sense for Bitcoin to catapult back to maybe 19.3, 19.4 and continue to play around in this range, getting weaker. So it does, unfortunately, based on where we're playing at in the range, it does seem that 19.4 is going to be the high for Bitcoin, and we're probably going to trade around something like this range until we end up making a move higher or making a move lower. So I have a feeling that Bitcoin is going to be very boring for the time being, but we have to be aware that this is really good support. So any drop lower would likely be picked up around here, or we would continue to consolidate in this range before a move higher, move lower, which could extend out several days. You really want to look for any sort of strength, any sort of continued hold for this 19K level. You want to see a quick reaction to 18.8 to 18.6, else the price action gets more concerning, and then you start having to contend with 18.2. Obviously, we had a really strong reaction there on CPI day. If we don't get another strong reaction there, then we may end up being stuck back in 18K as opposed to being stuck above 19K. And I know this range is extremely annoying and extremely difficult to trade, but I'm sure many of us would appreciate a higher Bitcoin price than a lower Bitcoin price. Looking at Ethereum, it's actually a bit more obvious to trade. It's not as ugly as Bitcoin. We are in more of a firm range, with 1340 being the top and 1280 being the low. Technically, the low is more or less 1265, but both of these are more or less just range deviation. So if we can hold 1280, then very similarly to the outlook for equities, if you can hold 1280, then you could maybe move back up to 1330 and then continue to ping pong around here. We could also shorten this range a bit, just given where we got cut earlier today, and then we're ranging between 1330 and 1280 and 1300 for a lower, with maybe some range deviation in there as well. So I told the trade the chain community, given where ETH is sitting, it's probably the most obvious trade. You want a long support, you want a short resistance until you find a firm trend break. Obviously, this deviation only lasted for a few hours. I really probably wouldn't have longed this deviation, but when hourly RSI is oversold, as in here, both decent long opportunities, at least on the immediate side of things. If you would have held that long, it might not have been good. But if you would have longed when RSI touched the bottom, then you would have had a 2% trade. And if you would have longed when RSI touched the bottom, you would have had a 2.5% trade. So RSI, of course, has not touched the bottom here. I don't really want to trade unless I know that it's a good trade, but it did tag this value area at 1284 and has been forming a wick. So we'll have to see if it ends up tagging 1280. If not, it could just end up, doing what we said for equities. If it can hold this level, then it can start moving higher again. But we typically know after this volatility for the day, it's sometimes better to wait for the daily close, as the daily close will give you a little bit better of information, potentially more volatility, and then that could lead into a potential swing into the morning, like we've seen so often. We had a swing lower into the morning over on Saturday. We had a swing higher into the morning on Sunday. We had a swing higher into Monday. We had a swing lower into Tuesday. We had another swing lower into Wednesday. And then, of course, heading into Thursday, today, we had another swing higher. So it's better, the trades have been very bountiful to us after the daily close, because that's when we get our swings, and then we get the volatilities off the highs shortly after the morning. So much better to trade in this kind of pattern where, you maybe have an overnight risk trade, or you're assessing whatever the overnight trade is, you're going to reverse that shortly after the morning. That's obviously been working many times. So it's, sometimes don't think about it too hard. What patterns is the market representing? Where is price action in reference to key price areas, i.e. the range, and then play that level. So, it's the market's been showing its cards. Typically trade whatever the opposite is happening after the open, and you may end up scoring a few points. Obviously, Tuesday maybe a bit of the outlier, as you might not wanted to have fade. Well, what you wanted to do on Tuesday was fade the move higher, and what you wanted to do again this morning was fade the move higher. So, we're trading in a range. The market is not obvious, but it is creating patterns that we can then use to our advantage. So for Ethereum, hold 1280 or hold 1280, 1285 may swing higher to 1300 or higher. For S&P, hold 3670, 3680 may swing higher back to 3730 or higher. For Bitcoin, hold 19.1 may swing back to 19.3 or 19.4, potentially higher. If we break these levels, obviously we're headed back to the lows, and we have to look for trend deviation, as we could see another one of these scenarios like we saw for ETH. So good luck, happy trading. I hope that nothing is really obvious midday. Like I said before, best trading has been overnights and into the open, but that overnight trade really starts after the daily close, which presents a good opportunity. Daily close is 8 p.m. Eastern, markets open 9:30 ET. You've got about little under 12 hours apart from those. So, two separate really good trading sessions for the day. And those are really your opportunity zones and continue to be. So we continue to slap around this range. We continue to long support, short resistance. And until anything changes, until any larger macro news comes, that is what we are left with. So I will see everybody tomorrow for the Friday session as we head into the weekend. Let's hope these support levels hold and longs get a little bit of love as we head into Friday again. I know many people would appreciate that. So good luck. Happy trading. See you tomorrow.